Hey everyone, hope you've all been enjoying the trails this summer. I gotta be honest, leading group hikes is a blast, but capturing all the amazing memories can be a challenge. That's where our new podcast sponsor, the Cameo Journal, comes in. This thing's built for travelers and hikers by fellow adventurers. It's a pocket-sized rugged journal designed for you to collect up to 100 entries from all your trailmates, your life guests, and anyone else you meet along the way. Basically, it can be a guest book for your travels and an awesome keepsake. Logan over at the Cameo Journal is a backpacker himself and put all his love for travel into the design. So if you're looking to level up your hiking adventures, head over to thecameojournal.com to grab one not just for yourself, but for your crew too. Welcome everyone to the Hikes and Mics podcast. I'm your host Ivan, and together we'll embark on a weekly journey connecting with extraordinary hikers from all corners of the U.S. and beyond. Throughout these summer months, we've had the privilege of conversing with some remarkable individuals. Their experiences and adventures will leave you yearning to hit the trails. In the Season 7 premiere, we're heading back down to Utah to talk to an amazing hiker. Her name is Kayla, and you can follow her on Instagram at K_Meehan_. Kayla shares with us some of her favorite hiking and outdoor destinations in and around her beautiful home state, including some memorable visits to Zion and Capitol Reef National Parks. We also learn about some unique ice castles that you can visit during the winter months in Midway, Utah, and some great restaurant recommendations for that post-hike meal. Without further ado, let's jump into this episode with our guest, Kayla. Welcome everyone to the latest episode of the Hikes and Mics podcast. I'm really excited to be going down to Utah again to speak to an amazing individual about her beautiful state and some of her favorite trails in and around Utah. Kayla, thank you so much for joining us on the podcast. For our listeners that haven't had a chance to follow you on Instagram, can you share a little bit about yourself and how you got started hiking?
Yes, of course, I would love to. And thank you so much for having me. I am from Salt Lake City, Utah, and I was born and raised in Utah. I'm half Tongan, so I feel like I'm very outside doing cultural things with my family, like just at events, or we would always go hiking or just on nature walks with the family, which was always super fun because when you live so close to the mountains, I feel like that's practically where I grew up, which was so fun and enjoyable because we created so many fun memories there. I feel like just growing up so close to the mountains, it's allowed me to have more of a hobby and create more experiences growing up here.
And for being somebody that's born and raised in Utah, how would you describe the hiking scene in and around Salt Lake City and some of your favorite trails?
So I live near the Wasatch Mountain Range. It starts in northern Ogden and then goes down towards Payson. So it's about 160 miles that it covers. So growing up really close to the Utah Mountain Range, it has a diverse landscape where you could either hit the hiking trails or you could go for a waterfall hike, or if you just want to go for like a scenic nature walk, which is what I did a lot growing up, or just go to a natural lake that's nearby. That was another fun thing that we would do a lot. So I would say the hiking here is very diverse. You could either get a lot of the Red Rock in southern Utah or just up here in the Wasatch Mountain Range is where I tend to go towards, is very diverse, I would say.
Yeah, and one thing I've been learning, especially about Salt Lake City, is the few times I've been to Utah, I either fly into Salt Lake City, but then travel to Moab or down to Kanab. But Salt Lake City itself, within a short hour and a half drive, has some amazing and diverse hiking trails. For you, what are some of your favorite hiking trails to go and explore for a day hike?
So I really like going to the Little Cottonwood Canyon area. So that is in Alta, and I really like bouncing between Little Cottonwood and Big Cottonwood, but I'll just start with Little Cottonwood. So my favorite one to go there is called Secret Lake, and that is via the Upper Albion Meadows. So it is a ski resort during like the winter months, but when it starts melting, that's when it opens back up for hikers. And most of the time the gates are going to be shut, and they're still shut at this time of year just because there's still so much snow up there. That's one of my favorite spots to go, whether it is closed with the gate and covered in snow or during the springtime when the flowers are starting to bloom in the Albion Meadows. The reason why I love doing that one so much is because you could do it when the gates are closed. It's about 4.5 miles, but when the gates are open, it's a nice family friendly hike that you could do, and it's about 2 miles in and out. So it's really nice because then you get the scenic lake at the top of the Little Cottonwood Canyon that overlooks the valley, and then that one's just one of my favorite spots to go anytime.
Is that a popular popular one for the fall color season? I feel like I've
Yes.
heard it.
Yes, it most definitely is. That entire canyon is just absolutely beautiful because you have the Wasatch Mountains, which is just steep rocks, and then it's just like slate rock. So it's just like flat surfaces and super steep terrain, which is really nice. But like then you have the fall colors and then just the wide mountain range of just like the different ski trails that they have there that you can also hike on when it is open in the springtime and nobody's skiing.
And at least in the fall months when the colors are blooming, is it pretty busy with traffic, or are you still able to find some places without too many crowds?
Yeah, I would say that one's a pretty trafficked area just because Little Cottonwood is probably one of the more scenic drives that you could easily take, just go up there. And it's really nice. I wouldn't say it's too crowded. There is one that is down in Utah County. It is called the Alpine Loop, and that's on Mount Timpanogos Mountain. And that one is gorgeous because it goes from Provo side all the way to American Fork. And it's just scenic drive through the mountains. And then you're going through so many fall colors. It's beautiful. And I'd say that one's probably like more busy than the Little Cottonwood Canyon just because that's a more popular drive, but both equally beautiful. And I mean, they're both kind of busy, but just depends on the time of year and when you hit it.
Yeah, and I'm glad you've mentioned wildflowers because I feel like Utah is very much like the Pacific Northwest where it has like two wildflower seasons. One for the lower elevation wildflowers, but then as the snow begins to melt and the mountains begin to open up, you get that second wildflower season in the mountain ranges. Did you get a chance to enjoy the wildflowers that you have had bloom there in Salt Lake City?
Yes, I have. So one of my favorite trails lately to go is in the foothills of Salt Lake. So there is a hike particular that I'm thinking of for wildflowers. It's called the Living Room Lookout Trail. The reason why it's called the Living Room Lookout Trail is because it has cool rock formations that look like chairs and couches at the top that you could sit on and overlook the Salt Lake Valley. So that one has the best wildflowers, I'd say, just because that is in the foothills of Salt Lake. And then it's great because then you're hiking all around and it has so many other connecting trails as well.
That sounds like a really good spot to check out with the rock formations. Guessing some amazing viewpoints up there as well, right?
Oh, yeah, some of the best, honestly, because I want to say it's close to 900 feet of elevation gain. So when you start at the foothills and go up 900 feet, then you're at the highest point you could be at the foothills. And then you're just overlooking Salt Lake City, all the not skyscrapers, but pretty much just the big buildings in Salt Lake overall. And then it's cool view because then it makes you just realize how small you are in nature. And it's really nice because when you're that close to the city, it's nice to get outdoors and get those kind of views.
You know, I think most people, especially in Utah and California and the Sierra Nevadas, it's going to be a while before they forget the winter of 2023 and the epic snowpack that both California and Utah got. How was the winter this year, and how long do you think it will be before the mountains start opening up with the snowpack melting?
That's a great question. So the winter this year, it was kind of weird. We're still getting sporadic snowstorms, I would say. It does still have a lot of snow in the upper elevation areas. So the gates are probably going to be closed at least until mid-June, hoping they're opening up sooner. But just with how much snow we had this year, there is so much up there. Recently, there was an avalanche up there just because there's so much snow and then it's getting warmer and just causes natural avalanches to happen. So I would say hopefully mid next month that the gates start to open up and the snow starts to melt off.
Oh, so you guys are very much like us. This last weekend, I was at 5,000 feet of elevation, and in the distance in our Goat Rock mountain range, there were snow flurries happening. I was like, it's the middle of May, and we're still getting snow up in the mountains, which is good for our reservoirs, but it's definitely delaying the opportunities to get up into the mountains just a little bit longer. Now, with the snow melt, one of the great things that Utah has, especially during the early summer and even through the summer months, is those amazing mountain waterfalls. And you've been able to showcase some of those gorgeous waterfalls on your feed. Is there any favorite late spring, early summer waterfalls that you like to hit up?
Yes, I would say some of my favorites currently is Stewart Falls. That one is in Provo, Utah. So that one is really great because that one's more of a family friendly hike, but it is in avalanche terrain. So you have to be careful and wait for enough snow to melt off. But that one is one of the most spectacular waterfalls. It is huge. It's just a huge cascading waterfall that comes down at the face of the mountain. And as you're hiking in, you drop in a little bit as you're approaching the waterfall, just like scrambling through the rocks, dropping down towards it. And then you're at the base of the waterfall. So just looking up at it makes it feel even bigger than feeling the mist come off of it. And that's one of the biggest waterfalls I would say I go to frequently. Another good one that I love going to is called Battle Creek Falls. So that's another great one. And that one's a great one as well. That one is a little bit more steeper. It has a steady incline. It's closer to 2,000 feet of elevation for that hike. So you're getting up there, but it is so worth it because it's just a rugged rock face that you can hike above. So you could be at the top of the waterfall or the bottom if you're wanting to get in the waterfall, which is really fun. Two of the best waterfalls that I would say in Utah that are near me.
I know this is a difficult question because it varies from year to year, but when would you say is like the prime, like raging waterfall months for your area? Is it June, July, or maybe is it in May?
So I would say it's getting close right now. It's not prime time yet because I feel like there's still so much snow starting to melt currently. So I would say mid June, beginning of July is when it's going to be the best. I would say the middle of next month would probably be the best time to go see those waterfalls.
You guys have such beautiful mountain ranges there in and around Salt Lake City. I think many of us, especially in places that get a ton of snow, we're just itching to be able to hit up those mountain trails during the summer months and escape the summer heat. Are there any favorite mountain trails that you have to explore during the summer months?
Yes, one of my favorites I would say is Bell Canyon. So that one's my favorite just because it has an upper and a lower falls is what it's called. But I would say that one's more my favorite in the summer months because that's like approaching prime time of waterfall season. And even if it's not a full on waterfall, you're still walking along a river the entire time on your hike up. And that one, it's great. It's about a little over 2,000 feet of elevation gain, and that's to the upper falls. But it's so cool because you can choose to turn off at the lower falls and then you can still enjoy that one. But since it is such steep mountain terrain, it's like you're going straight down the face of a mountain, like hanging onto trees as you're approaching the waterfall, which is fun. So that's the lower one, which I still love doing. And then you could sit on like the side of the waterfall and look out of the canyon and enjoy a lunch. Or if you choose to, you can keep hiking up to the upper falls after taking a little break from the lower falls. So that one I feel like is a great day hike to do in the summer because whether you choose to stop at the lower falls or keep going to the upper, it's a rewarding hike overall to do during the summer because it's fairly shaded. You're near the water pretty much the entire hike. And then the wildflowers on that trail are just as amazing.
Yeah, and I think you've posted a couple of different reels with just the waterfalls exploding with just a volume of water. And if folks get a chance, do check out Kayla's Instagram because she's been able to share some amazing sights, not just in Bell Canyon, but in and around Salt Lake City. Now, Kayla, it would be a disservice not to ask a Utah guest about the Mighty Five. You know, I feel like Utah is one of those states where the whole state could be considered a national park just because you guys have so much beauty there. But what have been some of your more memorable experiences visiting your in-state national parks?
So I would say the most memorable experiences that I've had is at Capitol Reef National Park and Zion National Park. Those two are my top two that I've been to, and they're the only two that I've been to out of the Mighty Five, which is totally fine, but that gives me a goal to do the other three sometime soon. But I would say the most memorable experiences between Capitol Reef and Zion is probably at Zion National Park, just because the red rocks there are absolutely breathtaking is the right word, because they're so towering. And then there's California condors there, which is probably one of my most memorable experiences. So at this time of year, the California condors migrate to Zion National Park, and that's where they'll hatch or lay their eggs. And then they kind of stay in that area for the springtime until their eggs hatch. So that is probably one of the coolest things that Zion offers is the California condors. And then they have the park rangers out there doing kind of like the educational classes, just showing all the people in the park, the condors through their telescopes and then teaching us about them. And that's just one of my favorite things is like, even when you're in the shuttle, biking through the park or hiking, you can always see the condors flying around. And I feel like that's one thing that Zion National Park offers that I feel like no other national park offers in Utah is the California condor. So I feel like that's why it's such a memorable experience for that, just to remember that associated with Zion National Park, because you're going to see the condors when you go there during their time there.
And I feel like recently you've been able to post a very unique and fun and creative place to stay when visiting Zion National Park. Can you share a little bit about that?
Yes, of course, I would love to. So, my favorite place to stay when visiting Zion National Park is Zion Glamping Adventures. So, that is in Hilldale, Utah, and Zion is in Springdale, Utah. So, they're about 45-ish minutes away from each other, but this is like the closest campsite that you could get. That's a nice experience. And the cool thing about it is it's tucked away in the Red Rocks near Zion. So you could get there one of two ways, going through this little Sheep Creek Canyon, or you could go through a Smithsonian Butte scenic byway. So you're either going off-roading kind of to get to your campsite, but they're BLM roads. If you can get through, they're just a little bit more of washboards, rugged rock, but it's doable. And then you get to this campsite and they're almost like yurts. So it's dry canvas tents that you stay in. The hosts are amazing. They cook you pancakes every morning with coffee. They have a campfire going every night and every morning with s'mores or just breakfast around the fire. So it's truly a memorable experience to stay at Zion Glamping Adventures if you plan a trip to Zion, because this is a great, fairly close location that you can stay at. And then it's really close to Zion. They have great recommendations to stop in between the campsite and Zion. So I just feel like it's the best place to stay if you want to get disconnected, feel like you're getting a full outdoors experience, but still stay relatively close to the park.
Oh, I'll have to add that to the list next time I go down to Zion. You had me at pancakes.
It's so nice waking up to that because they're just the sweetest people. You wake up to pancakes every morning, come down, meet other people at camp, and then it's just a fun experience getting to know people from out there.
Oh, definitely. And outside of the Mighty Five, Utah has some amazing state parks, national forests, and national monuments. What have been some of your favorite state parks, national monuments, or national forests that you've been able to explore?
The first one that comes to mind is the Grand Staircase in Escalante. So that is a national monument. And I feel like that is such an underrated area of Utah because that's near Capitol Reef National Park. The crowds there are very minimal, which is nice. And then you're getting the trail pretty much all to yourself. One of my favorite hikes to do down there is called Lower Calf Creek Falls. There's also an Upper Calf Creek Falls, but the trail does not start at the same place for lower and upper. So you have to choose one or the other. And I chose to do the lower at the Grand Staircase. And that one is just another amazing one because it's a waterfall from the runoff from the snow that they get down there. So it's just pooling up and then you can go in the water and do like a cold plunge if you want, which is really fun, or you don't have to. But that one is also a fun national monument place to visit that I feel like not a lot of people hear about.
It's definitely kind of getting my attention just because it has some of the most unique rock formations and features that take a little bit of effort in order to reach. I'm butchering the name, but it's like the Cosmic Ashtray, I think is one place I want to visit.
Yeah, I attempted to do that hike just last week, actually. But the Cosmic Ashtray, that's another one I want to put on my list to do just because I wasn't able to. It's really cool because you go about 30 miles off on a BLM road and then it turns to a sand road. So you cross this Harris Wash is where it is. So you're able to drive through that and then you're able to park there. And then the rest of the time, you kind of have to scramble across these rocks because it's not a paved trail or a marked trail. There was a storm coming in. So by the time we got to the sand part of the road, as we were approaching the Cosmic Ashtray, we were probably about 2 miles out. The road said it was impassable when wet, and we saw a storm on the horizon. So we had to turn around and get out of there before we got stuck out there. So I wish we could have had time to do that hike, but the weather was not on our side that day. You will need an all-wheel drive vehicle if you choose to go past the Harris Wash, because then it's just deep sand. You can either park your car if you don't have an all-wheel drive car and then hike the rest of the way, or if you do, you could try and drive up, but it's impassable when wet. So make sure you go on a good day where it's good weather and no chance of rain.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Kayla, but I don't think there's much cell phone service out there. So if you get stuck, it's very difficult to be able to reach somebody without having to hike out, right?
Yeah, that's correct. So you have little to no cell service out there, honestly, especially when you turn onto the BLM road and then you're getting down into the canyon towards the Cosmic Ashtray, you're going to lose all cell service. I would highly recommend downloading your map before you lose service. So make sure to download a map beforehand.
And, we've been talking about all the seasons, the fall colors, the spring wildflowers, the summer mountain getaways. One of the segments we like to do on the podcast here is doing a deep dive into our guests' Instagram and asking them about a specific post or maybe a location that captured our attention. And while winter seems like a very far, far away season, I gotta ask you about the ice castles in Midway, Utah, because from what you were able to share, it just looks like a unique and fun thing to experience during the winter months.
Oh, yeah, totally. That is one of Utah's hidden gems. It's only open seasonally, and I feel like a lot of the locals know about it, but not very many people do unless you hear it by word of mouth or see it on Instagram. So that's located in Midway, Utah, and it is just like a master icicle art piece. Like, it is so cool. You can go there during the daytime or nighttime. I recommend nighttime because they actually have lights inside of the ice formations that they create. So they have archways, slides, tunnels, almost like mazes all inside this ice castle. So it's all handcrafted from over 25 million pounds of ice. So be prepared to wear your snow boots. It is going to be a little bit slick. Some people will bring in like their sleds and pull their kids because you're in an ice castle. So you can do that. And it's just really cool because it's like nothing that you would ever see like anywhere else. And then Utah's weather, it's great because you have the staff there constantly fixing the ice castles. If it does get too hot and melt, they'll just recreate it. And sometimes it's a different ice castle every year, which is the cool thing. So it stays pretty similar format setup, but it just depends on the year, season, weather, how it all goes of what it will look like and what's included in the ice castle. But every year it's amazing because I feel like it just gets better and better. They have seats even made out of ice. They have like cool ice formations of just little fountains inside the ice castle. It's just something that you wouldn't expect to see. And it's really fun to be able to go there with your family or for date night or just with your friends. So it's a cool experience here in Utah to be able to have the snow, to be able to have ice castles like that.
No, yeah, definitely. It made me say wow as soon as I came across the clip because it's something I haven't heard of. I've heard of like staying in a snow dome in like Norway or Canada, but to be able to have that in a place like Utah is just amazing. And I know you said it's kind of depending on the climate, but what are some of the months where you're almost guaranteed to be able to visit them and hang out there?
Yeah, I would say I believe it is January to February. Sometimes they open in December, but it's a hit and miss with December. Like this year, we didn't get snow in December. We got it more at the beginning of the year in January. So they opened in January this year, and they're typically open until like February, mid-February, or beginning of March is the best time. I can also send you the link to their website just to show their times each year. But I would say always in January to February, you're more than likely to get into the tickets and see it.
For a lot of us that are either hikers, backpackers, one of the things we always look out for, especially if we're traveling to go hiking, is trying to find a great local eatery. And I feel like Utah over the last decade is really becoming quite a foodie state, especially in the Salt Lake City area. For folks visiting Utah, do you have any favorite eateries you'd recommend for a good post-hike meal or even just like a treat? Because the one thing that you also do well on your Instagram is you share some of these great restaurants, and it's, not just burgers and pizza, but it's Mexican food, it's barbecue, it's a little bit of everything. Do you have any favorite post-hike destinations?
Yes, that is one of my favorite questions because Utah truly is becoming such a foodie state, and I appreciate that. Some of my favorites right now is Hungry Hawaiian. That is a local Hawaiian-owned business. It's located in Provo, Utah, so I feel like it's pretty central. Whether you're hiking in the Wasatch Mountain Range, you could just pop on over. They offer different plate options of different meat styles and then different sides, so you can load up on carbs after. If you're feeling not Hawaiian food, there's another great one I'd recommend called Bam Bam's Barbecue. They're another great one for smoked meats, barbecue style. Love going there. And then if you're going for a sweet treat, I would recommend the Paleta Bar. So the Paleta Bar is a Mexican treat, which I love because they have chamoy and tajin paletas, or they have like a sweet treat paleta that you can make with Oreos and cookies and cream. It honestly is both great options. I also have some good food recommendations for Southern Utah if you're going down that way. Is Hangry Goat is what it is in Zion. So they also have the best barbecue I'd recommend is Southern style, great fresh vegetables to go on, coleslaw, pickles, all the goods. Magnolia's Kitchen is another good one near Capitol Reef, Escalante Grand Staircase. I swear, I think it's safe to say they might have some of the best breakfast burritos I have ever tried. And it's so cool finding small places like this pretty much in the middle of nowhere that have the best food. So those are the ones I would recommend out of everything. If you're looking for a sweet treat in southern Utah, I would recommend Desert Ice. They're located outside of the visitor center in Zion. So it's really nice and convenient because whether you're just passing through Zion or planning to go do a hike or come back from one, this is a great spot to stop at and get a treat.
Yeah, I think for me, and I know California hikers are going to disagree with me, but some of the best tacos I've ever had was this little place, and I'm forgetting the name, but it's in Moab on the southern end of the strip. Some of the best tacos I've ever had in my life, and it wasn't something I was expecting in Utah or Moab, to say the least. But yeah, the more I visit Utah, the more I'm finding all these amazing, diverse, and great looking meals and restaurants that you guys have. It's truly amazing.
It is amazing. And speaking of tacos, now that you say that, I have to share one of the best taco spots I know in Salt Lake because this is my go-to. I could eat this every day or after every post hike is Tacos Done Rafa. They are in Salt Lake on State Street. Just look up Tacos Done Rafa. You won't regret it. They're probably one of the most authentic, freshest street taco styles tacos in Utah, and they offer the best.
Oh, I'm going to have to hit that up next time I'm in Salt Lake. Now, Kayla, at the beginning of the episode, you mentioned that you're Tongan, and we kind of talked about the Polynesian culture. I've known individuals in Hawaii that were Tongan, half Tongan, and the way they described the island made it seem like a magical place to visit. And you got a chance to visit it not too long ago. How would you describe Tonga, and what kind of outdoor opportunities can people expect if they go visit?
Yes, that's a great question. So I love sharing about my culture and my background being half Tongan because I really truly take that as an honor because Tonga has so much to offer. If you know the movie The Other Side of Heaven, that is truly the best way to describe Tonga because it is the other side of heaven. It feels like a tropical paradise. So I served my LDS mission there, and that was the reason why I was there, and I loved it. But it was so great because I stayed on the main island my entire mission, so I didn't get any opportunities to go to the outer islands. So it's fairly relatively flat on the main island. There's no hills or mountains, and you can go from one side of the island to the other all in one day, which is really cool. And the more opportunities to hike is probably going to be on the outer islands. So there's a couple of outer islands, honestly. There's only a few that are inhabited with people. So the ones I would recommend is Vava'u, or Ha'apai, or Ewa. So those are the three largest ones that people tend to travel to because those ones have mountains on them or just bigger hills. So Vava'u, that one has a huge mountain on it that everyone tends to hike. It's just an overlook of the ocean, the mountains. That one is probably the most elevation change as far as the islands, like the most varying from like hills to mountains. And then as far as Ewa, that one does have a little bit of mountains, but it's more just like relatively flat, a slow incline. And then Ha'apai, that one is another flat one, but that one's a really fun one to go just take a visit to. And they do have resorts out there. So if you did want to stay at one of the resorts on one specific island, they do offer that. So it's just really cool what they offer out there. And they are still a third world country. So they have a king and a queen. So it's just cool seeing like how everything is there and how much they have to offer.
And Kayla, in order to get to some of the outer islands, is that something that you can do by ferry, or do you have to fly to them?
That's a great question. A lot of people do take a little plane to Vava'u or Ha'apai because that's a little bit further. But if you're just going to Ewa, that is the closest next island to Tongatapu, the main island. So you would take like a ferry boat over to Ewa.
Yeah, it's definitely a place that I want to visit. And, you know, we kind of discussed early on, I wish I would have taken advantage of being in Hawaii to take those shorter trips than from the mainland, but definitely on my list. And I'll have to keep those outer islands in mind for some good treks.
Oh, yeah. Outer Islands, 10 out of 10 recommend.
Now, these last couple questions, Kayla, are questions we ask all our hikers. I feel like day hikers and even some backpackers have a regular summit routine, or maybe it's the end of the hike routine. For a lot of them, it's packing a favorite snack or drink. For a few, it's a moment of zen, or maybe looking forward to the meal afterwards. Is there a regular customer routine that you do when you reach your final destination or when you make it back out?
I would would say my favorite thing to do, I always treat myself with a honey stick at the top. That may seem like something very small, but it is very rewarding because I try and save it as like a sweet treat when I get to the top, enjoy it with like a sandwich. And then just really take in the view is one of my favorite things to do. Then it just really makes me sit there for a second, take it in, remind myself how sweet the moment is, literally while enjoying a honey stick, which I can appreciate. I feel like one of my favorite things to do lately that I've started as a tradition, just as I've been hiking more, is I'll try and take a good panoramic photo at the top after I finish my lunch. I have a friend who is a watercolor painter, and he would just paint whatever landscape I took the picture of. I have done that for my challenging hikes that I push myself to do, and I do that as my reward as well long term.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah. So, like, enjoying the moment as it is and then remembering the moment afterwards with that picture I want to remember with that hike.
And this next one, Kayla, is when it comes to your pack list, is there a luxury item that you tend to carry that falls outside of the essentials? You know, for some it's camera equipment, recording equipment, but is there something that you tend to pack on your hikes that kind of falls outside of the essentials?
Yes, I would say one of the things that I pack outside of the essentials, some people may laugh at me for this, is a little tripod. This is just for like my own recording purposes because sometimes when you're hiking, you're a little bit shaky and you can't really hold your phone steady. So I like to carry a little handheld tripod that I could just collapse in my backpack, have in my side pocket. And I feel like that's one of the things that's helped me get really good footage, I guess, on the trails of what I want to remember and keep as a memory and then share with others is just having my tripod with me because then I'm able to set it up and then have it record me walking off into the distance, enjoying the view with my husband, or just whatever views that we want to get. Along with the tripod, we also pack up a drone sometimes. So that's another luxury item if we know we're going to a high elevation where we can use a drone because you do have to check the air traffic laws when you're flying in Utah or just anywhere really. So that's a luxury item between the tripod and the drone, but both are just to get great content and it is so worth it every single time.
I think I'm going to invest in a little tripod because on some of my group hikes that I host, I always do a selfie with the group, but it was a challenge trying to set up to get a group photo without a selfie. And it wasn't until one of our regular hikers has this collapsible one where we are just able to set it up and set a timer and then everyone's in without having to, hold it out and do a wide shot. Definitely something on the Amazon shopping list for me. And we're almost halfway through 2024, but there's still plenty of months before the year ends. Is there any hiking or travel goals you have for the remainder of the year?
Yes, there is one in particular that I would like to do next month is in Hanksville, Utah. So this is an area that I haven't explored very much, but I noticed it when we were passing through Capitol Reef. So Hanksville is supposed to be like some of the coolest rock formations. It has the moon overlook, it is one of the most known trails there just because it's like this lookout point and all these crazy rock formations that you can walk out on. And then it literally looks like just flat desert, but almost like moonlight. So it's like almost like craters, which is really cool. And then they have really cool desert colors out there, just another rock formation. And then when it's like the sun setting at night, it gives it a different color. So that's one spot I would really like to travel to the Hanksville area before the end of this year.
And I can't recommend it enough, Kayla. I know many people go to Capitol Reef and they drive by Hanksville. But for me, when I got a chance to visit in 2023, Hanksville was the primary target and then Capitol Reef was secondary. Like you described, the moon overlook is just something else. It really looks otherworldly at the top of that cliff.
And like that's just an area that I feel like a lot of people don't hear about because you hear about the national parks, which is great. But if you go off to the side of the national parks and explore, it gets even better.
Yeah, it's not too far of a drive. Definitely would recommend a higher clearance vehicle. Although when I was there, I saw a Tesla trying to make it out there, like just a regular sedan.
No way.
Yeah, I don't know if he made it to the overlook, but he was on the road.
He was trying.
Yeah. Well, that was it for the regular questions, Kayla. This last section of the podcast is the this or that questions. I'm going to give you two hiking related topics and you just choose which one you prefer out of the two. But the first one is, do you prefer a steep incline or steep decline?
I would say steep incline for sure, because I feel like the steep incline, it's like you just have to get yourself to a certain point, like the next viewpoint. And then once you're after that, then you feel like you're at the top of the mountain, literally. And then I like doing the steep incline more than steep decline just because of my knees. After doing a long strenuous hike, I feel like it's much harder coming down than it is going up. So I'd prefer steep incline.
And this one's a tough one, but waterfalls or summits?
Oh, So I would say waterfalls for sure, just with how amazing the Utah waterfalls are. You can't go wrong, but I mean, there are great summits here too that are breathtaking, but the waterfalls with how they're cascading and just overflowing is amazing. And that's incomparable.
Do you prefer a trail with tons of switchbacks, or would you prefer to just go straight up?
Me personally, I prefer a trail with switchbacks because then I feel like it gives you a more visual aspect of what you're about to accomplish, which I really love and appreciate because I feel like that's one thing that Zion offers really well is a lot of switchback trails, which is really nice because then you're going straight incline and it feels like you're doing it a lot faster, even if you may not be. I prefer switchback.
And this next one is probably the most controversial one, but Trek poles or freehand?
I would say freehand for myself because I like to be able to have my hands ready just in case I'm going to grab onto something if needed. I feel like trek poles sometimes are not able to have as much free movement as I want because then it's just direct one step in front of another, but I like having freehand just to be able to grab whatever I need to.
Do you wear trail runners or do you wear traditional hiking boots?
I wear traditional hiking boots. I really love the Tiva hiking boots. Those are my personal favorite, so I would go hiking boots for sure.
Do you prefer a loop trail or an out and back trail?
Oh, that's a hard one. I really enjoy the loop trails, but I would say out and back is probably my favorite.
And then this next one is about your water carrying system. Do you carry traditional water bottles or do you wear a hydration pack like a Camelback?
Yeah, I use a hydration pack. I used to carry traditional water bottles, but I just didn't like having to worry about the water bottle situation because obviously leave no trace rule. And then I just realized that was more extra stuff for me to carry. So then I switched to the Camelback and I love that so much more because then I feel like it's more easy for me to stay hydrated on the trail and just drink when I need to versus pull out a water bottle, which isn't hard to do, but I noticed myself staying more hydrated with the Camelback.
Okay. And these next two are hardest ones, but sunset hikes or sunrise hikes?
I would say sunset hikes for sure. Those are my favorite, especially after going to southern Utah and doing the sunset hikes down there, especially sold on sunset hikes.
And then spring wildflowers or fall colors?
I would say wildflowers for sure. After being in Utah, wildflowers are the go-to.
And then the last one, Kayla, is do you prefer long and gradual hikes or short and steep ones?
I would say long gradual hikes. Those ones are the most enjoyable and I feel like it doesn't feel like you're doing a straight incline up a mountain, which is fine. But I like the long gradual hikes. Those seem to be more enjoyable and then just really take in the views.
Well, that was it for the this or that questions, Kayla. For folks that haven't had a chance to follow you on Instagram, what are some of the places that they can follow you online and what's your Instagram handle?
So I am on Instagram. My Instagram handle is KAY_Meehan, which is my last name. So it's MEEHAN_. So K_Meehan_, and then that's my Instagram handle where you can find me.
And we'll be sure to put that in the episode show notes so people can check you out. Kayla, it has been absolutely fun talking to you about all your amazing outdoor experiences there in your beautiful state of Utah. I'm really looking forward to what 2024 has to offer for you.
Thank you so much. Likewise, it was great talking with you as well.
And that brings us to the end of this episode alongside Kayla. We extend a heartfelt thanks to her for coming on the podcast. Make sure to stay connected and follow her on Instagram at K_Meehan_. Don't forget to check out the episode show notes to follow Kayla on TikTok and learn more about the Ice Castles. We have an incredible lineup of episodes planned throughout the summer months, and we can't wait to share them with you. New episodes will be dropping every Monday with occasional bonus episodes on Fridays. To ensure you never miss out on those thrilling tales, remember to hit that like and subscribe button. Your support means the world to us. Don't forget to join our vibrant community on Instagram at Hikes and Mics. We'll be sharing episode visuals, my own personal hiking content, and so much more. Let's stay connected and continue to inspire each other on this remarkable journey. As we bid farewell, remember to tread those happy trails, embrace the great outdoors, and keep the spirit of adventure alive. Until next time, my fellow explorers, happy hiking. This episode's music was created by Ketsa. Follow him on Instagram at Ketsa Music. This episode is brought to you by Ursa Minor Outfitters. Folks, I'm absolutely in love with my loon mug. It's handmade. It's an absolute piece of art. Whether it's at the office or at the house, people keep asking to check it out. If you're not a loon fan, they also have other beautiful mugs for wildlife fans of moose, bears, and eagles. They specialize in products highlighting the outdoors and local pride through quality design by local artists. They've even started expanding into items beyond mugs, like apparel, dog accessories, and soon candles and more. They also try to partner and highlight other small businesses, and in some cases, forego profits in lieu of charitable giving to help their community, such as the dog rescue. So check them out, UrsaMinorOutfitters.com, and enter promo code HikesMikes10 at checkout to receive 10% off your order. And for our four-legged hiking partners, they also have a portable silicone dog bowl and also a sweet over-the-collar dog bandana. Go check them out, UrsaMinorOutfitters.com, and don't forget to enter promo code HikesMikes10 at checkout to receive 10% off your order.